It's 10 times the terror.
Hello and welcome to 10 Times the Terror.
Not okay.
Welcome everyone to 10 Times the Terror. And we have a special guest today, Louie Daidone, who is a local artist, cartoonist, animator. Louie, it's great to have you with us. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing well. So, Louie, tell us a little bit about what you're working on. What is it that you do? We know tell us about your work.
Well, mostly I just do stop motion animation, cartoon.
Mhm.
I always say stop motion to specify it's old-fashioned looking, like very 1930s, 1940s style cartoons. So I do a lot of special effects with them, but they're mainly just cartoons for fun,
Okay, and how can people get a chance to see these? You have a website or?
Right now, everything I do is on YouTube. I would like to eventually get a website, yes, but everything is on YouTube right now.
Okay, so tell us how you got started in this. What first got you interested in? And yeah, when you say stop action, that includes things like the original King Kong was done with stop action animation, right?
Yes, that was all stop motion animation back then with models. Actually, King Kong, I saw that at a very young age. Was very inspiring. Inspired a lot of people. That inspired Harryhausen, inspired Peter Jackson. But I was also inspired by not only live action stop motion, but when I found out that the cartoons I loved growing up, like Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny, that was all stop motion too. The cartoons were done with pictures, one frame at a time. And I loved drawing when I was a kid. Loved drawing cartoon characters. And finding out that I can do this by just doing flip book on movies, that right there that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. I want to create all these drawings. I want to make them move on movie screens.
So, how old were you when you did your first cartoon?
Well, when I drew for the first time, I don't even know. I had to have been as old as when I was able to hold a pen. But the first time I actually animated, not counting flip books, I tried that when I was a little kid, was probably the first time I played with stop motion was when I got a video camera in 1989. And I just played around with it for a few times, but I didn't realize I could make stop motion until way later. It was 1999 was the first time I made an actual animated movie. And it's pretty old compared to the stuff I do now, but I was very proud of that work. It was like magic to me seeing these characters that I've been drawing my whole life come to life.
And so, did you actually make like cartoon shorts, like you talk about watching Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck? Did you actually do cartoons like that sort of 7-8 minute length?
Yeah, most of the ones I do are around that length, around somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, around there. A lot of them nowadays that I do are about that length. I don't like to keep them too long because I know people like the short and to the point cartoons. But every once in a while, I try to get one done that's longer because it just makes it feel more epic to have like a longer one. So I never limit myself to what it is I do. Like if the script calls for it to be long, I make it long. If it's meant to be short, I make it short.
And these are available on YouTube?
Yes, most of the cartoons I do are available on YouTube. I haven't gotten all of my older projects on. I would like to eventually put all my old VHS ones on because that's what I used to do it on VHS. And I used to just give tapes to people. Not too many people now have a video recorder, so
Right.
I put them all on YouTube. Now I animate. I went from animating on a VHS camcorder to actually animating on my phone.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, I tell kids all the time, anybody can do this. Apps are usually free, and all I have to do is draw. I have a lot of kids that are fans, and I tell them all the time, you can do this. I mean, this is simple. If I can do it, you can do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And like, how many cartoons have you done now up to this point?
Well, I've stopped keeping track of how many of them I've done, but well over hundreds of cartoons. Now,
Wow.
granted, most of them are just like some shorts. And some of the ones that I've done recently in the last few years are these episodes called playlists. Playlists on YouTube is like when you set a bunch of videos in an order, like a playlist. But what I do is, if you've ever seen the television show Rona Martin's Laugh-In from the 1960s, you know how it was like a variety show, like they'd have
Okay.
skit after skit after skit. My
Yeah.
cartoons, WatchWaddle's playlists, are basically like a variety of cartoons. So it's like a quick gag. Every once in a while there's a connecting one, but it's set up like it's a variety show. I even have
Yeah.
the little loading screen in there, which is obviously fake, but I think I have 50 episodes of that. I'm actually working on my 50th episode now of the
Wow.
playlist episode.
So do you have have you created certain basic characters you use? And you mentioned like Laughing, it had no central characters, right? That just had a bunch of real fast skits. But do you have your own versions of a Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck?
Yes. My main character is Waddle the Duck. He's a red duck. I've been drawing him since the first time I drew him, believe it or not, was 1985. I was just drawing characters, and I drew ducks. I always loved ducks. Daffy Duck was always my favorite character. And I just wanted to draw my own. I just randomly grabbed a red marker, and I loved the way it looked. And ever since then, he was always my main character. He was my personality, just to an extreme.
Yeah, I've seen several of those, and they're pretty funny. I mean, that's now. Is there any way you can get these distributed in beyond just an online website? Or is there some, I don't know, in terms of marketability? How do you get these out so that a bigger audience can be aware of them?
That I'm not sure. I mean, I wish I wish I could, because everybody who sees them tells me my characters are great. Waddle is just one of many of that I have, and every character I have, I just put a great personality into. And my sister does a Turtles character. My wife does several characters. My niece, even my son gets involved. They all love these characters. I would love to market these characters even more. My wife tells me all the time I should go on Happy Press and put them on shirts and merchandise, because people love them. People love these characters.
Have you ever there's whole kinds of local comic book shows, and by that extension, media shows in this area. Could you ever go set up a booth, as a way of maybe extending the range of your characers?
I would love to
about
do
them.
that. I would honestly, truly, I would love to do that. I mean,
because there's a good guy I've known for years who runs a bunch of these in northern New Jersey, and every Sunday he's out in some other place at a show, and I've been to these over the years. Now they kind of went to a hiatus during the pandemic, but they're back up and running again, and you would have not just local artists, but just people from around, from the larger area, who would have a booth set up with drawings and information about their characters and stuff they're doing. I mean, that might be something you want to look into.
I would definitely love to get into something like that. Definitely love to show them off.
Yeah. Well, offline, I'll get you get you the some contacts there. So I'm interested, because part of this, you grow up with this. What were you mentioned King Kong, which was a major event, in my film development, and obviously not just, of course, Peter Jackson, but a whole host of Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and on and on you could go. What were some of the other things that were inspirations for you?
Well, a lot of different movies were inspiring to me just because I love them. But honestly, the biggest inspiration I ever had, and I know this is going to sound like I'm making it up or being funny, but it was the movie Howard the Duck. And I know it's considered like one of the worst movies ever made, but when I was little,
it
was amazing though to me to see a live action duck movie. It was amazing to see that film, because this film was it wasn't just like a dumb comedy. It was they really took it so serious, and it had elements of horror, science fiction, comedy, adventure. Everything was in this film, and the main character was a puppet duck. Not like the main character wasn't a human, and the duck was the extra. The duck was the main character. And when I saw this, I know everybody else laughed or just rolled their eyes, but when I saw it, and I was very little, I said to myself, "Wow! Like if this duck could be a main character in a huge motion picture that has Lucas's name on it and has state of the art effects, then I could do anything." I mean, and when I saw that and I realized that, I said to myself, well, I'm not going to limit to myself to like just a short where it has to be funny. I love the movie Ghostbusters. I could have Waddle do that. I love Gremlins. I could have Waddle do that. I love horror. I love comedy. I love Casablanca. I could have Waddle do that if I want to. Like I could literally do anything. And it's all because of Howard the Duck. It was literally all because of this one movie that's considered the worst movie ever made that inspired me to do anything. It's ironic, but you know.
Yeah, tell me when did that come out? I mean, I remember I never saw it. I got to be honest with you. I was one of the ones that got, I guess, put off by the bad reviews. But when did that come out?
It came out in 1986. I never actually saw it in the theaters. I saw it on one of those HBO channels,
Okay.
one of the free channels when I was younger. Watched it with my mother and my grandparents. We were sitting around watching it, and they said, "Oh, you'd probably like this movie. It's got a duck in it." I had no idea what to expect, and I saw this, and it blew me away. And I showed it to my cousins. I had a copy of it. I taped on Betamax. I still have the tape, and I showed it off to my cousins, and we all loved it. They grew up and realized how ridiculous it was, but me, I grew up and I still love it to this day. It still inspires me to this very day. And
He was originally a
great.
Marvel comic character, wasn't that right?
Yes, he started off as a Marvel comic book character, I think in the 70s or 80s, and I guess they just decided to have a little fun and make it, which is funny because nowadays that's what Marvel does. They take any of their movies and they make a movie out of it. This was so ahead of its time because nobody thought to do that back then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's before the first Spider-Man movie or even the Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, I mean I think they all owe Howard the Duck like credit to being the first of their kind.
Wow. That's it. Well, so what? Just to pick your brain, what? So do you have? We've been going through starting a thing here on 10 Times the Terror, talking about our favorite films in the categories of fantasy or science fiction and horror and suspense. Do you have? Do you have? Okay, Howard the Duck, obviously inspiration. Do you have other favorite films that you go back and watch again and still get inspiration from?
Oh, absolutely. As far as horror is concerned, I love all horror. Horror is like one of the biggest genres because it's not just a scary movie. Like you got like the atmospheric 1930s films like Dracula. You got the silent Nosferatu. You got those weird witch movies in the 60s and 80s, of course, had horror comedy. And I'd say those are my personal favorite because I grew up with them. Because it's like Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Night of the Creeps, all of those movies were hilarious, but they were straightforward horror too. Like if you take the comedy out of them, they're still scary. So
Yeah, that's scary even with the
kid
comedy, I think, right? I mean, Gremlins is a
being
little
little
scary.
kid watching them is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Well, the thing we notice about horror is it is a perennial popular theme. I say other genres rise and fall. You know, musicals come and go, westerns and so forth. Horror has been in film since the very dawn of the motion picture, and has always
Absolutely.
It may fade a little bit, but never very long. It always comes back because it touches a basic human response.
Yeah, I think people like being scared. It's like challenging. I mean, they don't take it as serious because it could be serious. It could be extremely metaphoric to like the subject it's at. Like they say, Invasion of the Body Snatchers was very much about the Red Scare, or
Sure.
which was a time period thing. But it doesn't go that deep into it, and you can still watch it to this day and still like it as a good sci-fi horror film. But like you said, yeah, it's been there since the beginning of film history. I mean, the Lumiere brothers made a horror film, the skeleton moving around, which I think people back then actually thought it was a real skeleton because they didn't understand movies. You know?
Yeah, wasn't it that? Was it the Lemire brothers? They had a film of a train pulling into a station, and where movies were brand new, the audience was so freaked out they got out of their seats and ran because they thought that the train was coming at them.
It's funny. I heard about that. I mean, I've seen the film. I've seen the train. I mean, I couldn't imagine being there for the first time and seeing the train pulling straight in.
Yeah,
it's funny. My wife and I were just recently watching an episode of Gilmore Girls, and they referenced that. And I started laughing, and I said to my wife, that's a true story she's talking about. That literally happened back in 1895. I love that people still to this day are still referencing that. That's how funny it is.
Yeah, that is.
But horror has always been my favorite. And
do you have a favorite horror film?
Oh, it's hard to say a favorite because of how much of them I love. But I don't know. I mean, horror is great. I guess if I have to say a pure horror movie, probably The Shining is one of my favorites because it's just so Kubrick and so out there. I still to this day don't really understand it, but I love the fact that I don't understand it.
Yeah. Do you
horror comedy is definitely Ghostbusters and Gremlins, but if it's pure horror, I love The Shining.
Did you ever see the TV version?
I have seen the TV version. I was not that into it, but I was kind of glad I saw it because, it was one of those like huge stories. Everybody knows Stephen King couldn't stand the movie because it had nothing to do with his book. So I was actually very much looking forward to seeing the TV version because even though I love The Shining, I always said, I want to see what the book was about. I couldn't get through the actual book. But when I saw the TV version, I'm like, this is what it's about. This isn't bad. It's not so bad. But, I mean, compared to Kubrick, you really can't.
I read the book and was very impressed with it. I was less impressed with the movie. I meant the Kubrick film. That may just be because I was making the comparisons with the book.
Oh yeah, it's nothing like the story, but that's kind of expected with Kubrick. He always takes something and kind of claims it to himself.
Yeah, Kubrick every movie he's ever done has been fashioned to his own perception, his own outlook. Even 2001 with the Arthur C. Clarke source, it's still a Kubrick movie.
Yeah. 2001 was also one of the greatest science fiction movies ever made. Again, I know it's straight from the book, and I have read the book, The Sentinel, that it's based on. It's a great book. But even that, I love the Kubrick film because it just makes you think and makes me wonder what is going on. And I love not having explanations for the answers. Even though I love the sequel, 2010, the one with Roy Scheider, came out in the 80s. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's so underrated. It's a great movie. But you watch it saying to yourself, okay, this is a sequel to 2001, but it's just a different movie. You can't really compare the two. You gotta know in advance you're watching something different. The thing with Dr. Sleep when it came out, which is a sequel to The Shining, more like the book, but they reference the movie. So it's one of those you just kind of have to get yourself in the mindset is just expect this is a different version. Kind of like
one of the things with these genre films, whether they're horror, science fiction, whatever, is they always have sequels and they always have remakes. There's the Halloween sequels ad infinitum ad nauseum, and then there's the remakes, and it just charts itself over and over again. So it sort of it goes in and out and back and forth. What film out is or let me put the question differently. Is there a film out now that you've been excited about? A film in the last year or so? Anything that's current that really has kind of sparked your imagination?
Honestly, the only one that came out recently that I really wanted to see was the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife. The part 3 of that, because I've been wanting to see another one of those movies since I saw part 2 in '89. But honestly, I stopped wanting to watch one after Harold Ramis unfortunately passed away. And I didn't really want to see one, and then after seeing the other 2015 one, I'm like, I really want to see the original one again. And honestly, I loved it. It was fantastic. I felt like a little kid watching that movie. I think that's what was important about it, is that you do feel like a little kid watching them, because we all had great childhood memories watching movies, and we want to take it into adulthood. And I think that's one of the problems I have with a lot of remakes and sequels nowadays. Not all of them, but I think some of them kind of miss that fun factor. I think they're too busy trying to make points or trying to be special effecty, and they're forgetting to be fun with the movie. Ghostbusters Afterlife was fun. That was such a fun movie.
Okay. So what's on the horizon? What's your next project going to be?
I have so many different ideas. I don't stop thinking. I'm one of those that just, every time something sparks, I have an idea. I just recently finished one that this is a funny story. I actually utilized all my old technology to make this really new film. It's called Statics. It's about these little monsters that are in a TV. It's like an 80s monster movie comedy, like Gremlins or Critters. And I set it nowadays, and it stars my younger characters, Waddle's niece and nephew. And he has them babysitting in the house, and he has no Wi-Fi in his house. Waddle is so old-fashioned. He's like one of those stubborn, old-fashioned older people, myself, very much like myself. And he hooked up a black and white TV with a Betamax VCR, and says, "Here you go, guys. This is what you're watching." And the Betamax tape that they put on has like a little monster that comes out of it. So I got these little special effects monsters coming out running amok, and I utilize an actual black and white TV, an actual 78 record player, an actual tape deck, and the monsters go crazy attacking everything, and they don't. And it's basically a 6-minute excuse to play with all my old machines, because I have a working Betamax, a working black and white TV, a working record player, and all of them are older than my niece and nephew, and I'm utilizing all of this stuff just so I can have these little monsters attack. So it's a fun little 6-minute short I made. That's released today, actually, on YouTube. I just released that one.
It makes me, the film Ringu, the Japanese film. It was remade in the U.S. as The Ring, but in Ringu, the witch comes out of the TV itself, right?
Yeah. It's great. I love that.
Yeah, watching the TV, and the next thing you know, that to me is one of the scariest scenes that I've witnessed in a long time. That another one is in The Invisible Man, the new one, where you see the heroine is outside and it's cold and you can see her breath, and then behind her you see breath, and you realize that the Invisible Man is there. A lot of times,
I haven't seen the new Invisible Man yet, but I heard it was great.
It's an effective movie, and I think the scariest scenes in movies are not violence or blood or whatever. They're these kind of moments that are totally unsettling. Like that idea that you just see the breath by itself, and you realize that he's standing right behind her and she doesn't know. Right?
I was talking with Hitchcock, I think, right? He said like one of the scariest things like the audience knows, but the characters don't. I think he used the bomb under the table, but the two guys are talking and they don't know about it. It's like
that's Hitchcock's famous example. And I think that's very true. That the audience, you want to yell at the screen, "Watch out! Look out behind you!" Yeah. Well, Louie, this has been great. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts you'd like to share with us about where you see yourself, say, in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of these projects? Again, we're not going to hold you to it. It's just, but just a kind of a guess or whatever.
I just hope I'm able to continue making these. Honestly, if you asked me that 10 years ago, I'd say honestly, I don't really want to progress. I want to keep the way I am. I'm comfortable where I am. But I've gotten so used to making more and trying to top myself each time now. And I used to be so scared of technology. I'll be honest with you. I was scared of modern technology. Just give me my VCR and leave me alone, and I'm good. But I utilized so much. My wife was hugely influential in that. She got me my phone. she got me the app for it. She goes, look, if this thing doesn't work, use this. I see myself continuing my traditional way of animating. I was able to get a good in between. I'm able to get my old-fashioned stop motion, and I utilize modern stuff with it. And now that I'm not so afraid of my technology anymore, I see myself growing out. Like, don't be afraid to get a website now. Don't be afraid to go into the next streaming service. Don't be afraid to send it to Netflix or whatever the next thing is. You keep your old-fashioned way of doing things, which is stop motion. You continue to be inspired by classic films, 80s, 70s, and do something new with it. Show it off to the newer generation. Don't be afraid to show them. Kids nowadays love all this old-fashioned stuff, and teenage audiences, they love it too. I've showed it to so many of them. But where I see myself, I see myself continuing to do what I'm doing, so long as I'm having fun doing it. That's the most important part.
Right.
And just keep working on my scripts. I have so many ideas. I love getting them out there. Silly as they are, sometimes I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's really been fun talking to you, Louie, and our time is just about up here, but it's really been intriguing and interesting hearing about what's molded you and what your projects are, and the fact that you're still doing stop action animation is very interesting. So look, let's stay in touch, because we would like to be abreast of what's coming next up on your horizon.
Definitely love to stay in touch with you. I'll send you a link to the newest film I made if you want to see it.
Please do, yeah.
Definitely send you one of those. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you again. I'd love to do one of these again. This has been fun.
Okay, Louie, great to talk to you. Take care, and we will be in touch, right?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely be in touch.
Okay, bye for now.
All right. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you for listening to
It's 10 Times the Terror,
the podcast.
One of my favorite films ever. Let's do that for again. Thank you for listening to 10 Times the Terror. This podcast would not be possible without listeners like you. You can find out more about our podcast by visiting our website, 10timestheterror.com. That's 10xtheterror.com.